Gigi now, who's Professor of Economics at the University of New South Wales. Thanks for joining us again, Gigi. You've been critical in the past of lockdowns. Presumably, you're going to tell me that this one is unnecessary?
Completely. And it's very disappointing to see that sort of tunnel vision still focused so much on COVID cases, not even telling us about the number of people suffering or who have died with COVID, and really just giving lip service to all of the vast numbers of costs, particularly for younger people, but also across New South Wales and in Sydney particularly, from these lockdowns. There's been a change in the narrative in the sense of at least accepting that there are costs to lockdowns, but in terms of the real balancing of costs and benefits in a reasoned and rational way, I've still not seen it. And we keep coming back to this rabid focus on COVID cases and don't let it spread, when, as you said yourself, Chris, we are increasingly seeing large numbers, large fractions of our vulnerable population being offered the vaccine. And those are the people who are vulnerable to this virus. The young people are not as vulnerable by orders of magnitude to this virus. And indeed, some of the New South Wales messaging around how young people can get very seriously ill, I think, falls into the category of being unethical and offensive.
Well, I want to go on to the economics. When we talk about a lockdown like this costing the city of Sydney and the people in it $1 billion a week, who bears that cost? Who is losing that money?
Well, it's all of us, really, but it is, of course, disproportionately impacting those kinds of businesses which have difficulty adapting to the COVID restrictions. And so those are mainly smaller businesses, hospitality businesses, arts and entertainment, tourism operators, of course, and CBD businesses that used to be able to serve people coffees. I mean, I would pity anyone who has made a business for their life out of opening a coffee shop in central Sydney. They must have just lost huge hope during this period. And the statement that we're not going to continue to have more lockdowns, I just don't believe that. Unfortunately, we've seen politicians completely ready to cave to this madness and continue to force those costs onto our whole economy. And those are just the short-term costs. In the longer run, we are damaging our ability to spend on everything that creates human well-being going forward, because we're just putting a big pause on revenues because our economic activity is tanking, and we're empowering larger businesses relative to smaller businesses, hurting competition levels in all sorts of different sectors, and getting people, consumers and workers, into bad habits. So there's a lot of long-term cost as well, and I haven't even mentioned the cost to children.
You know, Joseph Heller would be proud of some of the arguments made here. There are catch-22s that I think are remarkable. We are being told again that we are locking down in order to prevent other lockdowns or bigger lockdowns. And we keep getting this, and it's extraordinary we're getting this logic even when so much of the population is vaccinated. Nonetheless, once you do this, once the governments do this, they have to announce these packages they've done today, right? There's no option but to borrow more and pay some of that money just to keep people and businesses afloat.
Indeed. And so we end up in a new cycle of government supporting the incomes that used to be coming from the private sector. And that's not the direction for Australia to move in if it wants to promote a healthy and happy, vibrant society moving forward. So it, again, perpetuates the bad habits that we got into in the extended period of time when we were on JobKeeper and people just were sitting around and scared of the virus. It's going to take people a bit of, a shock to the system in order to wake up and push back against these policies, and continued government support basically takes away the desperation. So I don't actually support that additional support as much as it gives me a heavy heart to say it. I think we need the people to feel the pain in order to push back so we get this madness out of the policymaking.
Gigi, thanks for joining us again. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Professor Gigi there from University of New South Wales, a straight talker on these issues. We'll try and find out later in the program how long the lockdown's likely to last in Sydney. We do expect it's going to be at least another couple of weeks. Who knows, perhaps much longer.